There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTuber. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the debut episode of a new occasional series I am launching tonight. It's called Bite-Sized Book Chats, and this is the first episode. Didn't I just say debut, Sean? Don't repeat yourself. Keep the introduction short and snappy. I got the idea after having done a year's worth of long Zoom chats with booktubers and writers and bookish friends that people might be interested in seeing shorter chats with other bookish people. I got the idea and I started mining my Goodreads feed, my Instagram feed, and my Twitter feed for potential guests. And what I have for you today are 5 guests. Some of them were people that I had a little bit of contact with through BookTuber or Twitter or whatever, but at least 2 of them were people that I approached sight unseen. We had never exchanged any DMs or anything, but they were Goodreads friends. So this is a really exciting project for me too, to make a more personal connection with these people that are supposedly my friends, and I'm not saying I'm going to become real friends with them, but to actually have a face-to-face via Zoom chat has been extremely exhilarating for me, and I hope that you will enjoy it. If you don't follow me on any of those social media, my details are listed in the show notes. I have also listed the social media stuff for all of my guests. Follow me if you don't already, and I may rope you into a bite-sized book chat in the future. I'm planning to do this on a regular basis. I don't know how often. I already have 3 guests scheduled for the next episode, so we'll see how it goes. I want to be the one to invite you. I'm not going to interview active booktubers. I might make an exception for a smaller booktuber, but when I find a smaller booktuber that I love and I want to highlight on my channel, I'm much more liable to ask you to come on my channel for a 30-45 minute chat. Inactive booktubers, definitely, and I hope that I'm plugged into most of you on other bookish social media. It's fun to approach somebody and say, hi, you don't know me, but we follow each other on Instagram, and I see you've read this book, and would you come on my channel for 6 minutes and talk about it? So I've kept all of these chats really short and snappy, I hope. I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure that I will get better at conducting an incisive 5 to 6 minute interview about one book, but I've sure had fun putting this debut episode together, and here it is. Hey, so I would like to welcome to my channel Sharon Goforth, who used to be a booktuber, and we got to know each other a little bit before she disappeared on us, and I'm so delighted to have her back on my channel. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So nice to see you.
Well, it's nice to see you too.
Yeah. I saw on Sharon's Goodreads the other day that she had finished a book that I'd never heard of, and it's a Tunisian novel called The Ardent Swarm. Note to self, mention the author's name, Sean the Book Maniac. This is a novel by Yamen, Manai. And it was translated from the French by Lara Vergnaud, or Vergnaud, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and you just finished it recently. What did you think, Sharon?
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought the writing was very good. I liked what he was doing with the premise of the novel, which it takes place in Northern Africa in an undisclosed country, but since the author is from Tunisia, it's pretty easy to guess. And it's basically the story of what happens after Arab Spring, in 2011, when they went through and all these different countries protested and were going, for democracy. And it's like what happens after the cameras are turned off and all the media, press, everybody leaves. What are the people in the country left with? And it's basically a vacuum. And what happens is they want elections. So this religious fundamentalist extremist group is trying to come in as a political group and take over the elections. This story is told through the eyes of a middle-aged beekeeper. And he is, it lives in a village, and it's an extreme, they have severe poverty, and they don't have there's not much food. They're in the desert. There's just, it's very stark. And so this extremist group is trying to make inroads and take advantage of that. He keeps bees, and he makes honey for the crown princes and all that were in power before this Arab Spring happened. And so that's what he does. And he loves his bees, and he talks to them. The bees trust him. They don't sting him. They know his voice. And he calls the queen bees his girls. And that's how he refers to them. And one day he comes out and he discovers that his girls and his bees are being absolutely destroyed by these hornets. Of course, hornets don't lose their stingers when they sting. They can sting repeatedly. So they just sting, and they were these huge things. And he described them as having these red eyes and 3 inches long. And they were these massive hornets. So he's trying to figure out, what can he do to save his girls and save his bees? And he finds out through the story that the Japanese, you'll like this, Japanese bees are the only bees who have created any means of defense, because the rest of the bees around the world are defenseless against these hornets. And the Japanese bees, he discovered, they have their defense is what they call the Ardent swarm. That's where the title of the book comes from, is this defense that these Japanese bees have developed against the hornets. And so all of this, it's something comes in to destroy something else. How do you deal with that? And the two storylines come together at the end, and don't want to spoil it, but it was really, that was fast. So that's what I liked about the book.
So it's kind of like an allegory for the political issue. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you did it on audio.
Yes.
How was the audiobook?
Well, and that's where I think had I read it in print, I probably would have given it a little higher rating. I gave it 3 on Goodreads, but that's because they don't have half stars, which annoys me. And I would have given it a 3.5 because the person who narrated the story made some of the characters, the more minor characters, they were very cartoonish. I didn't like that. And I think had he been a little more serious with it, because it's a very serious topic, he was trying to make it lighthearted, and I just don't know that that's the right approach.
So you would recommend people read it textually, not.
I think it would come off a little less cartoonish, because the voices, the narrator was very talented, but talented in not quite the right way for this book.
Okay, very interesting. And Yamen Manai, I see he was born in 1980 in Tunis, and he now lives in Paris. Mm-hmm. And would you read another book by him? I think this is the only one to be translated, but. Yeah,
this was his first. I believe he has 2 other novels.
I think so.
They have not been translated. Yes, I would read another one by him. I don't know that I would do it on audio, though.
Yeah, very interesting. You've sold me, but I will go for the printed book. And he's a little bit cute, too. Did you check out his photo?
He's young for me. He's the same age as my kids.
Yeah, what's the problem? So thank you so much, Sharon. And I'm gonna put your Instagram details in the show notes so people can start following you there. And I want to have you come back here, and I hope that you will someday come back to BookTube in all of your glory. But in the meantime, keep coming on my channel anytime you want.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and be careful what you wish for.
Careful what you wish for. I would like to welcome to my channel Loyson from India. Thank you for appearing on my channel.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join with your channel and to do it with you.
Loyson and I are Goodreads friends, which, it doesn't mean anything in the real world. We just met face-to-face here on Zoom about 45 seconds ago. But I noticed that Loyson read a book by a writer that I've read one novel by, and that is Perumal Murugan, a Tamil writer. And the novel that you read, Loyson, is Pyre.
Pyre, yes.
And you
actually I have read many novels before that. written by Perumal Murugan, like One Part Woman and Estuary, and I got a collection of short stories of him. And Estuary is a story, short novel about the relationship between father and son. And this One Part Woman is actually similar kind of stories. One Part Woman and this Pyre. Yes, One Part Woman. Yeah. So you have already read it, right?
I
One Part
have,
Woman.
and I really liked it.
Yes, it's the tribal stories here happening in remote villages of Tamil Nadu, a state in India.
Oh, and can you, I'm going to ask you please to pronounce the translator's name.
Yes, Aniruddhan Vasedevan. Aniruddh.
Thank you. Same translator that did One Part Women.
Yes.
And he is a writer as well.
Yes.
So what's the book about?
Where it's about a situation happening in a village, a remote village. It's deeply rooted in caste and religion. When one man from one caste in a specified religion marrying another woman from another caste, the problems that causing between these two, the families between these two persons, that is, and the total overall problems happening after their marriage between families between these two persons is what is described in Pyre. It's totally a tragedy that what's going to happen in that book. At the end, the cost they have to pay for their marriage is a total tragedy.
And the setting and the social stigma of the village people reminded, from what I read, what you just said, and what I read in the synopsis, reminded me of One Part Woman very much. So
yes. So actually, you have an experience with this writing in One Part Woman. Exactly, that is what he is doing in this Pyre also. He is a tremendous writer, especially much related to common people's mind and their lifestyles in village areas, especially in rural village areas. The religion, the role the religion is playing among them. And here in rural villages, there is a part called some Raj. Raj means a kind of ruling apart from government. Government has no role in it, no panchayat. And below panchayat, there is a sub panchayat created by landlords and the movements. We call them movements. Movements means the head of the tribe. Yes, the head of the tribe rule that small area, that small village. So the rules are set by them. So they say the rules what to follow, and all villages should follow that. It's like an order from government.
Murugan, he really kind of tackles that conservative those social forces, and he's a very progressive writer. There was a big kind of scandal about One Part Women. Didn't he kind of retire?
Yes. Yeah, there is a controversy happened after that book here in Tamil Nadu and especially neighborhood states also, because he is exposing the materials that happening in that villages. He is exposing the relation between the people and the movements. That means the head of the tribe, and he is exposing what the religion and caste is causing among the villagers, and he is exposing the old age rules that is still happening in the village. Like if you read One Part Woman, you can know what is happening in that. Yes, that's what he's exposing all that, and that is causing a lot of trouble to villages and this tribe man who is controlling that village, and it is putting force on government to control his writing, because these tribal laws are exposed to all other people by through his work.
You have sold me. I definitely want to read it. Now, comparing it to One Part Women, did you like one better than the other?
Both are equal for me, but if you are pressing me to say one, I will opt for Pyre.
Okay, well, that's a strong recommendation, because I really loved One Part Woman. I also read his called The Goat.
You are telling me the goat. There is another, but here in India it's named as Black Goat or Poonachi.
Poonachi, that's right. Sorry, it was Poonachi, the story of a black goat. And I don't like reading novels with animals as characters. So I didn't. Have you read Poonachi?
Yes, I also read it.
You liked it?
Yeah, it's also good. It's pointing at society, but characters are animals. The way they are suffering from humans, what the humans are forcing them to do, and what humans are thinking about animals, and what their lifestyle when controlled by humans. But it is strictly pointing towards our society in a different way.
Okay, well, this is fascinating. Thank you so much for coming on my channel, and I hope that I can invite you back someday to talk about other books.
Yes, also. That's fine for me. I am also taking pleasure in that to
Great.
talk about books.
So everybody, I'm going to put a link to Loyson's Goodreads in the show notes, and you should follow him because he has excellent taste in books. Thanks, Loyson.
Thank you. Thank you.
James, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing?
Thank you.
James has been on my channel before. We had a long extended chat about Australian lit. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And today, James of the Caustic Cover Critic blog, I'll put a link to that, plus his Twitter, plus his Goodreads. He recently read a book of essays from Australia called Gentle and Fierce by Vanessa Berry.
Yes.
Tell us about it, James.
Yes, well, it literally only came out, I think, about a month ago. And she's a writer and artist and makes a lot of zines, which I've not seen any of her zine work. She seems, as far as I can work out, to sort of each year produce a zine that's kind of like her diary of the year with art that she's done during that year. And this collection is essays that are united by the theme, very broad theme of animals.
As your animals makes his appearance on the screen.
This is Zeta, she just appeared in the corner.
Fabulous.
But yeah, animals in a very broad sense. So some of them are about specific animals that she's encountered. I mean, one chapter is about, I can't remember the name now, but an island in Japan. It's full of rabbits that were introduced and the people left. Now it's become a tourist destination where people go and meet the rabbits, feed the rabbits.
I'm vaguely aware of it, but I don't know the name.
Yes, and others are about animals more broadly. For example, about a secondhand teddy bear that she's found. She seems to be a big collector and hoarder of stuff, and I can definitely sympathise with that. But even more so than I am. So, a chapter might be about sort of the launching point, I guess, of each chapter is an animal. So one might be this, those little porcelain figurines that kind of people have, no one's ever bought them, but they've sort of inherited them from somebody else's grandmother who died and they got passed around and you find them wrapped in newspaper in a box. So, a little porcelain otter might be the launching point for another essay. So a lot of them are sort of, I guess, biographical, but using animals each time as the focus or the starting point. I think this is not her first autobiographical book, but certainly it doesn't give you an impression of a life crowded with incident. But she still manages to make the essays very interesting, which I think is quite a neat trick.
So personal essays.
Yes.
Does she have an agenda for environmental issues, or? There
are hints of that in there.
Right.
She lives in Sydney, and some of them were obviously written, I think, quite recently, during the massive bushfires we had a couple of years ago, just before COVID, seems a lifetime ago. That's there in the background, the sort of environmental things, and also just the kind of massive extinction rate that's going on, which is hard to avoid talking about if you're talking about animals. But it's just much more on a kind of personal level and kind of meanings that some types of animals have, or that objects have, that objects that may be in the form of animals here, like teddy bears or little statues or things like that. I mean, there's one essay that uses as its launching point Georges Perec's cat, because he always had cats and he always gave the cats the same name. So every cat, it was as though he had sort of one continuous cat through his life. Using that, again, to sort of tell a story, a non-fiction story, but tell it from the point of view of this kind of continuous cat that Perec had through his life. The Duchat, which apparently is something like Muk cat, French. But and for example, that's the essay, that's some of her art. And she was reading.
She's an artist, isn't she?
Yes, that's right. So she was reading Life for Users manual, and then from there she kind of got interested in him and his cats. And of course, he spent some time in Australia and had a sort of mental breakdown while he was here. So it all kind of stories that kind of flow from point to point and then go through autobiography and then back to the animals and things like that.
How would you describe the tone? Is it humorous?
not humorous. It's quite almost faintly melancholic, I think. And there's certainly several of the essays are overshadowed. She doesn't give a lot of personal for someone who's writing kind of memoir stuff. There's actually not a lot of personal details in terms of certainly her current life. I mean, when she talks about things happening in other countries like Japan, she's very specific about details. But a lot of the stuff that's set in Australia, you could read the whole book, and unless you knew from the internal clues, you wouldn't even know necessarily that she lived in Sydney. So she talks about she grew up in a country town, or she talks about the city where I lived. She doesn't specify places much at all, or the university where she teaches, which I think is the Uni of Sydney, because there's a kind of a small natural history collection there. And when she was a child, she'd go there. There was a big stuffed bear that vanished, and so one of the essays is about her search, trying to find what's happened to this massive stuffed bear, because it must be there somewhere. Something that big can't be hidden away in a filing cabinet. You can't find it. So the tone is more gently sad. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Tell us about this publisher. Is it Giramando Publishing?
Yes, they are Sydney-based as well. They're based at one of the universities. I think it's University of Western Sydney. I guess that two main areas are publishing sort of lesser-known Australian writers, and also, I guess, neglected Australian writers as well. But the other kind of wing of what they publish is often short translated works. They publish stuff from Chinese and Italian and places like that, which has been interesting as well, because there aren't a lot of Australian publishers who are seeking out new work in translation.
To finish, James, tell us about your animal there.
Oh yes, well there's actually two in the room. This is Zeta. Yeah. This is Zeta. If you put her head, yeah. She's being shy.
She's being shy. And what's her name? Zeta?
Zeta, yes. And we also have Mitchell, who's a relatively new addition to the family as well. So he's only just under 6 months old. So yeah, and he's made Zeta leave now. There she goes.
What breed are they?
Mitchell's a mini schnauzer, and Zeta is, as you can hear, a very loud Labradoodle.
They're almost as their chins are almost as hairy as yours.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking part in this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
This is Alex. Alex used to have a BookTube channel, which I very much enjoyed, but that's no longer active. But he and I stay connected through Goodreads. You have read a book recently that I'm very curious about. Welcome to my channel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It's an honor. I am definitely a long-time watcher.
Well, thank you. Can we say where you live?
Yeah, I live in Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah. So
in Canada for your international viewers.
That's right. And you have started. You were involved in. Tell us about your latest project.
Yeah, so I'm on the editorial board of the Hamilton Review of Books. It's a literary magazine that reviews books and writes different articles based in Hamilton. And I'm starting a podcast that we are just in the midst of production. So we're planning to release our first episode in the fall.
That's fantastic. So this is a podcast from the Hamilton Review of Books?
Yeah, absolutely. My first guest is going to be the editor-in-chief, and then we're going to be very reader-focused. So we're going to be interviewing various readers and talking about their tastes and interests.
So it's going to be a kind of version of this. Maybe we can all meet up together.
Absolutely. Yeah. You might be a guest in the future.
Alex, I invited you on specifically because you have just recently finished a book that I didn't think would be a Sean book at all. But then I heard the author interviewed on the New York Times book podcast.
Review book, I listened to that too. Yeah.
And then I did some more research into it and I ordered it. My copy's coming in the mail to me, and that is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. So tell me about it.
So I didn't know about this author until I guess he released his last book called Blacktop Wasteland, and it was one of the notable books on the New York Times top 100 list last year. And I listened to the audiobook and it was very good. I liked it. And then same thing with this one. I listened to the audiobook. So those who like audiobooks, it's a great narrator. So the story is about two fathers who are the fathers of two gay sons who have been killed. And obviously this takes place in the American South. The fathers have significant amount of prejudices that they had to deal with, and it definitely harmed the relationships they had with their sons. And so I guess in a way to kind of find some solace in terms of their disappointment in terms of what happened to their relationships with their children, they try to find out what happened. So it's a crime thriller in some respects, but it's incredibly well written. It is a page turner. If for people looking for summer books, it's great. But also it deals with heavy social issues in terms of racism in the American South, because one of the parents is Black, one of them is white, so they have to deal with their own suspicions about one another, but also dealing with all sorts of issues that are quite relevant in queer politics in a way that doesn't feel heavy-handed at all. It's really well integrated into the plot. It's a page turner. If you like, not everyone's like this, but for these kinds of books, it's very violent at times, but in an enjoyable kind of visceral kind of way, and a great conclusion. It's definitely a book that I think it would find a wide variety of readers, those who like literary fiction and those who like, a lighter or a more page-turny book for the summer.
The New York Times book review editor, is that Pamela Paul?
Pamela Paul, yeah.
In her interview, she made sure she said it about 3 or 4 times. It's very literary. It's a thriller, but it's very literary. And that roped me in because I've only read one thriller in my life. So, I'm not. And S.A. Cosby is an African-American writer, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I think to specify about the plot is that the sons died in a gay bashing type murder, right?
It's unclear. There's definitely
okay. So we don't want any spoilers.
Yes,
I kind of gathered that from the conversation, the interview, but maybe I read too much into it. But that both of their fathers, it was an interracial couple, and both of their dads were not comfortable with the whole gay thing, and so they were kind of estranged from them, and then they were murdered or died. Is it established from the beginning that it was murder, or was it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Murder,
There's no
but
question.
they don't know
There's
what
the
circumstances were, and then it's the journey of these two dads. Yeah, it just sounds so fascinating.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I think that he's very good at character development, and Pamela Paul, I think. She interestingly doesn't actually read the books before doing the interviews. It's her whole thing. But she is reading it now, so she talks about it in the next episode. And she talks about how one of the important things for thrillers, there has to be really great character development. It's definitely one of the most important things of drawing someone in, and this one, that's its strength, I would argue. Aside from the motion of the plot, it's definitely, you really do connect and are there with these two fathers who are coming to terms with a lot of horrible things of their past and trying to work their way through it in a way that's it doesn't turn on a dime, but definitely you see them like creeping in towards a better sense of how to be better human beings and coming to terms with how they fail to do so with their children.
Yeah, just sounds really, really great. The author S.A. Cosby made a comment that has stuck with me. He said, yes, I write about toxic masculinity, but he actually has another term that he uses for what energizes, what propels him to write these stories is tragic masculinity.
Yeah, for sure, right? The toxicity that leads to this tragic outcome that they can't resolve anymore, right? They can't make it up to their sons. They can't, so I think that's definitely one of the overarching themes in the entire text. Yeah.
And this is a brand new release. I think it just came out, early July?
Mid-July? Yeah, I think just a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
So you were right in there. Well, I was already sold, but I'm doubly and triply sold after chatting with you about it. So I'm...
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah.
Forward to reading it. So Alex, you and I have a lot of overlapping tastes. So I am hopefully going to be able to recruit you for many chats like this in the future.
Absolutely. We both share one of our favorite books is Do Not Say We the
Do
Madeline
not-
Tien book, Say We Have Nothing.
Yes.
And I love that book so much. I won several contests online related to that book. The Kobo did a competition where you had to write a haiku for it was all the Giller shortlisted books. And so you write a little haiku and then you get as many likes and shares, and whoever got the most likes and shares got their new Kobo and $500. And I harassed all my friends. I can never do this again. I discovered a lot of people do it all the time, but I ended up winning it. And so I got this money and prize as a result of this book. She's wonderful. And after she won the Giller, she came to Hamilton and they had a concert actually where she did a reading, and there was a quartet that played music from the book. It was a great experience. And yeah, definitely one of my top all-time faves.
Yeah, me too. I would say it's the best novel I've ever read.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was very lucky that of all the places that she went to, she came to Tokyo and she did a
that's
lecture
great. Yeah.
at the Canadian Embassy. And I harassed because it was free, but you had to register. And I harassed the Canadian Embassy so much about making sure that my reservation was confirmed, that when I showed up to pick up my ticket, they said, "Oh, you're Sean Mooney." Yeah, you sent us a lot of emails.
Yeah.
And I had a few moments with her. It was fantastic. So
no, she's great. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you for having me. It's great. I'm looking forward to this series a lot.
So I'm welcoming back to my channel today my friend Sisilia from Singapore. She's been on my channel a number of times, and she's going to appear in my debut episode of Bite-Sized Book Chats. Welcome, Sisilia.
Hello, how are you, Sean?
I'm great. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
We are going to discuss a book that you recently read from Persephone Books, The Homemaker by Dorothy Canfield Fisher.
Yes.
And you quite liked it, didn't you?
Yes, okay, I have the book.
Great.
Okay, confession, I bought this book because of its cover.
It's a lovely cover, and I hate those bland gray covers that Persephone puts out. So when they actually have one that has an image on it, I'm so excited.
Okay, you are not the only one. I don't like the gray covers either.
Ugly, ugly, ugly.
Yeah, so I bought this because of the cover. I think it's really lovely. And the title is interesting too. It's called The Homemaker. And I didn't know about the author. No idea. And I really love it. I actually gave it 4 stars out of 5.
It's like all of Persephone's stuff. It's not a new book. It was published in 1924.
Yes.
And it's an American writer. What's it about, Sisilia?
Okay, it's talking about the gender role in American family. It started really interesting. She brought us to see one family, father, mother, and 3 kids. So it's just like a normal family. The father, Lester, is working and is a breadwinner. And then the mother is a homemaker, is a perfect family. And they have 3 kids. And from the outside, everything looks fine, but Lester, the husband, actually doesn't like his job, so he's miserable. And the wife is kind of like a pen-up, in doing all this the houseworks and has to take care of the kids. I think she feels that she could actually do more, but because of the obligation as a housewife, so she's stuck. After one accident, Lester actually, I think he was paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
He's paralyzed.
Becomes disabled, right?
Yeah, disabled, and there's a switch off role. So that's interesting. And I think the author, Dorothy Canfield Fisher, is quite modern to highlight this in the early 1920s is quite daring.
Right. So the wife, she goes to work, right?
Yes.
And
so it's a switch off role.
Right.
Yeah. The wife goes to work in the department store where the husband used to work. The husband is homebound and he becomes the homemaker. And that is so interesting because they finally realize who they are meant to be. The husband enjoys being a homemaker, taking care of the kids and cooking, everything. And he's kind of a relief for not working the job that he dislikes. And the wife, Evangeline, she enjoys the work. I mean, she is a proactive, more aggressive, and she has a lot of ideas and very skillful. So as she contributes to the department store, and she has a sense of accomplishment, something that she didn't feel when she was a homemaker.
Thank you so much.
I think you like it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.